James, what the heck? Is it time
Hey,
again?
yeah, just
Well,
farting around out in the garage, Bill.
it is time that we do something useful with our lives and do something for the chameleon community. What do you think about that?
Oh, that's what I'm here for. Without the community, I would be bored.
Yeah. Well, good, because I'm going to make sure you're not bored because I am coming up with the topic today, and we are going to interview you, Mr. James Cross,
Oh
and
my
we're going to be doing
gosh, the
something useful.
pressure. The
This is what's
pressure.
going on. Let me set the scenario.
Okay,
So, Jackson's Chameleon's very popular,
they
rightfully
are.
so. But also Parsons, the Shamrocks, any of the Montane Chameleons, we need to give them a cool area to live in and a nighttime drop, especially for Jackson's Chameleons, a nighttime drop into the low 60s or the 50s. That's for the ideal health, but that is very difficult to do. And we always say, because it is the only solution that really, really works, is get an air conditioner. Get a portable air conditioner, a window unit, get an air conditioner for that room. Have a chameleon room and set it up. Now, when I was moving around for a while in my life. I was moving every year. I spent some time up in Silicon Valley, and I tell you, when you're renting a house in Silicon Valley, it's volatile. So I had to move every year, and I had Jacksons, lots of Jacksons. So I would have portable air conditioners, and they would go into every window, and this is portable on the wheels, and so the exhaust would go out the window, and I had to do that. So today, James, I would like to ask you some questions about putting in a bona fide window unit, not a
Okay.
portable one that just has the exhaust going out the window, but a an actual window unit air conditioner. All right, James. I have a bunch of questions, but you know what? I'm going to let you start talking, and then I'll ask questions if you don't cover it.
Okay. Well, basically, this reminds me of the first time I put an air conditioning unit in, and I thought I did a pretty good job. I just stuck it in the window, shut the window down on top, pushed it back a little bit. She had a little bit of an angle, but hey, what the heck, I was doing good. I was probably about 20 years old in a rental unit. Um, the only problem was it tended to not keep the room cool because a bunch of warm air was coming from underneath the air conditioning unit. And what you're seeing there is the backside of the unit where the condensating unit is, and that is where the heat dissipates. So, how air conditioning works is you think it's blowing cold air into the room, but guess what? It's really not. And this is that science stuff again, Bill. I don't understand it, but I know how it works. Is that okay?
That I will work with it.
Okay, so scientifically speaking, there's these things called molecules, right?
Yes, I
And
can confirm that.
okay, and these molecules are made up of in the air. We have what are called hot molecules and cold molecules. Correct?
Okay. Yeah.
There is. Do they have a specific terminology? I don't know, but what I do know is how air conditioning's unit works is it has a oil that turns to gas and then turns back to oil again. And what that's doing is extracting the heat molecule out of the room. It's not putting cold air in the room like you would think it would be. So basically, what it's doing is taking the heat out of the room, exhausting it outside, and bringing back that what's left of it, which is what's left when you take the heat away. Cold. Does that make
Okay.
sense? I'm trying to explain it in layman's terms. I'm not a scientist, but
You go
that's
with
how it
it.
works.
You go
That's
with
how it
it.
works. So what you have here is first of all, you got to put a better seal around that guy because what you're doing is you're getting the hot air that you're already removing from the room coming right back in the room through the side vents. That's not too intelligent. So you're going to want to brace that guy up. There's some inexpensive air conditioning lift units that will help hold those things in place. Bingo! Problem solved. So that's how
No.
you solve that situation. Those brackets aren't very expensive. I think you can get a kit for it for like $22. Um, it'll screw to the bottom of the unit. It doesn't necessarily need to be screwed to the house if you're in a rental because you don't want to piss the landlord off. The window itself will hold the unit in place, and those brackets will prop it up enough to keep it nice and level. Now,
Okay.
one thing I've noticed about these air conditioning units when you receive them, if you're buying a brand new one, is you can't really see it in this picture. If I could blow it up. No, you can't really see it in that picture. But on the bottom of these units, there's going to be a rubber plug. What happens is when the heat comes out, it creates condensation. Basically, the hot air is hitting the exterior air. Any moisture that's in the air is going to cling to the condensating unit, and it's going to drip into that tray. You got to make sure you pull that plug. Otherwise, you're going to have water coming back into the house. Okay, and one more picture. You got a little side unit. Usually, when I try to buy these units, I buy them smaller than the window opening. A standard AC unit size is 22 inches. A standard window size will be around 24. So you're going to end up with 2 to 4 inches between the AC unit and the window. They have these great little louvered edges that you can just stick in the side like that. They pop into place. You don't even have to use any screws. There's a great example of how to fix that. Now, you can also go down and buy yourself that 2-inch foam they sell at Home Depot, and you can also just stick that in the hole. I think that foam for a full sheet is cheaper than that little rubber deal that they sell you that goes on the side.
Okay.
Okay. Now, most window units, they're going to be a 110, or as a contractor, we'll call it a 120 service. Um,
And talking
those
about
units
meters.
are great. You do need a dedicated circuit, but when you're in a rental, you're not going to use a dedicated circuit. There's a certain amount of lights, plugs, and swishes that can go on one circuit and a 15 amp breaker. With that AC unit, you really don't want to overload it or you're going to start tripping your breakers. The 110 units will run you more money in electricity because they have to work harder to keep, they use more energy to keep the unit running. The 240, or as in the house, I think they call it 220 as residential, that will actually cost you less money because it has more power to run what you're running. So the smart thing to do if this is your own home is run a 220 dedicated circuit and get a 220 unit.
Okay.
Okay? I can tell you're itching to ask questions, so I'm going to stop at this point and I'm going to hand it back to you, Bill. I got
Okay.
more. I got more.
All right. So overall,
Okay.
can normal mortals, such as me, is it reasonable to think that normal mortals could go to Home Depot, pick up an air conditioning unit, and put it in their window and do all of this stuff with no problems?
Yeah. Yeah, they've made them pretty much idiot proof. Um, the biggest issue you'll run into is if you do not have a plug under the window, and that's where this nonsense of extension cords are going to come in.
Oh,
Now, depending on where you live, you may be keeping this AC unit in the window all the time. Therefore, again, I would go back to recommending bringing an electrician and have him run you a dedicated circuit. Um, the only other problem that you might run into with this situation is this window sizing, and therefore there's a bunch of companies out there. And I found one company that I was looking at and that we've used a few times. Let me see if I can find the name of that company. Okay, it's called AC Wholesalers. Okay, and I'm going to tell you what, they have everything you could ever imagine, every brand, every make, every size. The ideal thing to do in this situation is get one that's going to fit in your window. The BTUs that are going to come with it will vary. Not it doesn't necessarily mean the size of the unit is going to match the BTUs that it's putting out. I've seen small ones that put out more BTUs, and I've seen bigger ones that put out less.
All right, BTU. What
Oh,
is a
here we
BTU?
go. So this is a dumb one because Americans are lazy. BTU stands for British Thermal Unit. Okay, and here's the even stupider part. It's not stupider, but it just shows you how Americans just kind of went, okay, we'll just do that. BTU stands for British Thermal Unit. It's designed for heat. Okay, it's made for heat. It butane, B. Okay, it's really originally designed for telling you how much you need to heat your room. Well, Americans said, well, it's the same thing as cold, right? So they call it BTUs also. So
Okay. Well,
for
all
a
right.
homeowner, it's
So
going to be quite confusing.
how do I? So 8,000 BTUs, 10,000 BTUs. What's the difference? How do I know how many BTUs I want in my AC unit?
Okay, so really, the easy way to do this is they have calculators online, and you basically just punch in the size of your room. And your room's, let's say it's I'll just do this real quick for you. I already have it on my phone. It's part of my job. When they tell me they're giving me a unit, I got to figure out what size it is. Okay, does it have the actual chart there? It doesn't. Well, what you're going to do is take the length of the room times the width of the room. That's going to give you square footage. Okay, so 10 by 12 rooms, 120 square feet. 120 square feet, punch it into the calculator. It's going to come up with, where's that phone?
Do
Boy,
they assume a height?
you don't need the height.
Why
It's
not?
all because it's all about square footage. So square footage of a room is not cubic feet, it's square feet.
Well,
Everything
yeah.
in America is done in square feet.
Well, no, but you're a room that
That
is 8 feet tall is going to take less
every room
than.
in America, except for the exception of some really rich people, has an 8-foot ceiling.
All right.
It's true. Go measure every room in your house. I bet you is 8 foot. I bet you, here's another one I'll give you. Your bathroom is 8 foot by 5 foot.
Okay.
It is.
Dang it, James been running around at night with the measuring tape.
Those are what's called the standards. So
Okay.
basically, this is what's used in all standard buildings. It's been around since the 50s.
All
They
right.
figured
All right.
a person could fit in a 5-foot tub. So therefore, the room has to be at least 5 foot wide. And then you need room to walk around the tub. So they said, okay, let's make it 5 by 8. And that became the normal standard bathroom in a conventional home.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go with it.
Okay.
So, all right. So they do it by square footage. And
Correct.
they're not going to, they don't care if I'm bothered by that.
No. And so what it's telling me here is for 150 square feet, which is 30 more square feet, I'm going to need 5,000 BTU. So you're going to need between 4 and 5,000 BTUs for a 12 by 10 foot room.
What happens if I
Okay.
do 10,000?
Okay, so here's the funny thing about that. You think, yeah, well, shit. Oops. I got to know. All of a sudden, I was on the job site. Shoot.
Golly Willikers.
Jiminy Christmas. Anyway, here's the crazy thing. The more BTUs you have, the harder your AC unit's going to have to work. The reality of it is more power, good. More BTUs, bad. Here's why. The more power helps the motor run smoother and easier. It doesn't have to work as hard to turn. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. It makes total sense to me.
Well, so far it making sense, but
Okay, now here's the funny one. More BTUs, it's going to cool it off quicker, right?
So I would
So
think.
what's going to happen with your air conditioning unit? It's going to go bump, 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 bump,
Oh, I see what's going on.
bump, bump.
So it
It's going
has
to
to
start
turn
and stop.
on more times.
Correct.
And
What's that
turning
do?
on is the biggest stress on the machine.
Correct. What it's doing is it's pulling the most power at that moment. It's
Yeah.
also putting the most pressure on all the parts in the machine, and it's making it work really hard. That's why we go out and warm our car up in the morning, right? Before we drive it somewhere. I don't know if you do. I always do. Basically, you want to start your car in the morning to let your engine warm up before you put a bunch of pressure on it. Okay? It's kind of the same principle.
All
Okay?
right.
So it's better to have the right BTUs for your room. You'd rather have the air conditioner running constantly and using the bigger power. That will be more efficient than it will with the smaller power and more BTUs.
Okay. Yes, that makes sense now. Can we get these units to do both heating and cooling?
That's the best part. You most certainly can.
Excellent. Excellent.
Huh? So they got these things called a heat pump unit. And basically, it's the opposite of what your air conditioning unit is right now. They're a little bit more expensive. I would tack on 200 to 300 bucks to the price. You know, and some of these units, you're picking them up for 150 bucks, but you could spend as much as I have one in one of my C trains that I bought because I was thinking about converting it into a chameleon room. Um, we'll talk about that later, Bill.
Okay.
That's a secret. Anyway, it has a heat pump unit in it, and it is designed for 150 square feet, and it does both heating and cooling. And this basically what these units do is when they turn on and do the cold thing, like I was saying. So basically, when it's running forward, when the pump is running in the forward direction, it is pulling the hot air out of the room and leaving the cold molecule. What happens when you turn on the heat with a heat pump unit is it runs in reverse. So guess what it's doing?
Pulling
It's
out the cold. Okay.
it's bringing the heat back into the room that it would normally take out of it. So now it's
Okay.
doing everything in reverse. It's adding the heat molecule instead of taking it away. And that's
Sounds
what a
good
heat
to
pump
me.
is.
So, okay, let's see what else. And then when we want to put it in the window and insulate around it, that is simple as just going to Home Depot and saying, I want some insulation for going around it.
You know what I like to do? It just depends on where you are. We're lucky here in California. You don't really need to insulate around the window. The extremes between in and out and the summer and the winter, it's not really. But if you live in somewhere like Michigan or where's Sean live? Ohio, where the snow gets up to the top of your second story window and you got to tunnel out, I would definitely get get some of that foam. It works awesome. You could literally do the whole window, and now you've insulated the whole window, which is, I think that's what those Ohioans do back there anyway, isn't it? Don't they have to put something in their window every winter so they don't freeze to death?
Well, I'm sure that they will be happy to put comments down and tell you what they're thinking about you and your ideas. Are there any legal things we have to consider on this?
That's what's good about these. No.
Okay.
Um, if you're going to be doing a full house installation of air conditioning and heating units, of course, those are going to run on propane. Yeah, they still sell some heat pump units that are roof mount, that are ductless, that your plenum just goes right down from the roof into the house, and the unit literally will sit on top of your roof. But 90% of what everybody's doing nowadays, they've turned to natural gas, and all of those units are inside of your house, they're up in your attic. And so, yes, all of that would have to be done under permits. A window unit is something that's removable and replaceable. And so, no, it's no different than
Okay.
installing a washer and dryer.
Okay. And then you mentioned a plug or something. What does it take to maintain these? I
So
mean,
the
the
smart,
ceiling ones, we got the central air. We need to change filters. What do we do with these?
Okay, so in the front of them, you're going to see a little vent in the front, and that has the filter just like your return does inside of your house. So it's pretty much the same principle there. If you have a dusty situation, if you're cooling your house in the summertime, you're probably not going to have the windows open. So therefore, you're probably not going to be drawing in a bunch of dust. So as far as air conditioning goes, if you're just using an air conditioning unit, you'd probably change it every season. A lot of people I know put the window unit in for the summer, take it out for the winter. At that moment, I usually take it out to the sidewalk. I clean out the coils in the back with a hose, and I throw out the old filter and put in a new one. If you're going to leave it in and you got a heat pump going, I would turn around, and especially if you live in the dirt like I do out here in the country. I usually change mine every 3 to 6 months, just because you don't want the unit to run hard. It'll save you a lot of money in the long run.
Okay. How long do these AC units last?
So I've had back in the day they would last a million years, but it took a tractor and a crane to put them in. They used to weigh this as much as a piano. That's why I don't have a piano. They're heavy. Um, the newer ones that are coming out, GE, LG, even Bosch, the tool company, has come out with them. So these units are much more lightweight, way better built, and they have incredible warranties on them, and parts are replaceable. So, you could you could have one 5, 10 years.
How do you know when it fails? What fails?
The air conditioning unit.
I mean, so it'll just stop working, or it just won't
It'll
cool.
start not blowing cold air.
Okay.
You'll know. Sometimes they give off a funny smell. Usually, the thing that fails on most of the ones that I've come across in the past is the compressor and the oil. Especially if you're the guy that pulls it out of the window and then turns it upside down, then rolls it over on its side and rolls it all the way over to the garage instead of getting a dolly. You really want to keep them in their upright position. It's kind of like a refrigerator. You can tip them a little bit, but you really don't want to turn them upside down. The oil reservoir that's inside of them is designed for the oil to go one way. And if you tip them over, the oil will come back out and go into the areas that are supposed to be gas, and it'll create a problem. Sometimes you can leave them sit there for a month and then fire them back up, and it's not a problem. Um,
Okay.
but they're starting to figure out ways to make them so that doesn't matter anymore either. But just keep that in mind.
So really, it sounds like the hardest part about this is finding the proper power to run a unit.
Yeah, and every house has 110 in it, so you could always go with the smaller unit. It's just going to cost you a little bit more money on the PG&E bill or whatever your power company is. They run a little bit harder, so they draw a little bit more electricity.
Okay. But if you have Jackson's chameleons or any of these other cool weather species, then this is the way to do it.
It truly is. Or
So,
you can get
James,
one
is
of
there?
those portable roll in the room air units, and there's a way to do that too. Do we got a picture of that, Bill?
Yeah, we do. Let me bring that up.
These things are great because they're fairly inexpensive. Now you don't have to lift a big heavy thing into the window. All you got to do is stick a tube out the window, and we have a little piece of there it is, a little piece of metal, or in this case we use some foam. You just get that 3M foam, put a little tape around it to keep it in place, cut a hole in it, stick the ductwork out the window, and the AC unit's sitting there. And what's nice about these units is if you are going to be just in and out, or you're in a rental and you don't want to do any damage to the window or the outside of the building, or you're, again, like I said, you're only going to use it in the winter, in the summertime. You don't need it in the wintertime. It takes up space. You can literally just pull that out, pull your piece of foam out, roll it over, put it in your jacket closet, put the foam in there too, and you close your window. So
Yep,
these are
that's
really
exactly what
great
I did.
units. These are really great units for. This is about as easy as it gets.
Yeah, yeah, and it was effective.
They're
And
very
especially
effective.
you get those crazy houses where it's like, we don't need air conditioning. I've never been in a house where they told me we don't need air conditioning, where it was true. We always need
Yeah.
air conditioning. So, all right, James, is there anything that I didn't ask that I should know that we all should know about this?
I think we covered it, Bill. It's really not rocket science. It seems so foreign and maybe a little difficult to some people. But once you've done it once, you're going to be very surprised at how easy it is to do. And your chameleons are going to thank you for it in the end.
Yeah, yeah, definitely mine. California, last week up and past 110 degrees. That's death for chameleons, and
Me
so
too. Air conditioning was running for the last month.
yeah,
The guys couldn't even go outside. We're luckily right now we dropped off into 70, down into the 50s at night. It's just a matter of opening the door.
yeah. It's beautiful weather now, but boy, air conditioning saved my chameleons before. So
I think this is one of those great episodes where I know people are going to ask questions. Leave your questions in the comments on this after this video. If we don't get to them right away, it's not because we didn't want to. Sometimes YouTube has a wonderful way of making it hard for me to find the dang channel, let alone look for your comment. But no matter what, I'm going to find it and I'm going to answer your questions.
and he will. All right, James, let's go ahead and say goodbye to the good people.
We'll see you guys soon, huh?
Go and be awesome.
Yeah, rock
Later.
on.